I'm Dr. Tony Malioco, the President and CEO of Protean BioDiagnostics. I'm a medical doctor and specialist in pathology. I've spent over 30 years diagnosing cancer and developing lab tests. Today, I'm going to tell you about one of the services that Protean BioDiagnostics offers for patients. It's called genetic testing. Genetic testing is a special type of laboratory test that is used to analyze your DNA to determine if you are at increased risk of developing cancer in your lifetime. The test is performed on a sample of saliva. DNA is extracted from the saliva and analyzed to determine if there are any abnormalities in your genes. To begin with, we will cover some basic concepts regarding genetic testing. First, DNA is the information that's present in every cell of your body. It contains the instructions that you use to build your cells and your organs. Your DNA is inherited from your parents. It contains information that encodes things such as your eye color, height, and your risk of certain diseases, such as cancer. There are over 22,000 human genes. In some families, the sequence information of those genes are altered. These variants or mutations are considered to be harmful genetic coding events. If you happen to have inherited one of these variants, it may increase your risk of developing cancer. Consequently, the purpose of genetic testing is to determine if you have one of these variants, which you may have inherited from one of your parents. Determining if you carry one of these variants is important for planning screening and also potential treatment for you if you eventually develop cancer. Next, I would like to talk about the testing process. The genetic test is done on a saliva sample. The sample is collected and sent to the lab for DNA isolation and analysis. It takes about 3 weeks to do the analysis and organize the data. The results will then be delivered to your doctor, and the results will be reviewed with your doctor to explain the findings. Following this, the results will be shared with you and whomever else you feel is appropriate, which may be family members or other caregivers. What can be learned from genetic testing? Some of the key features are over 20,000 genes will be evaluated. These are basically all of the known human genes that are involved in coding proteins. However, only a subset of these genes are known to contribute to cancer risk. Consequently, our analysis will be especially focused on these key cancer-associated genes. After analysis, we'll have determined 3 possible results. The 3 possible results are negative or uncertain. First, what does a positive result mean? A positive result means that a variant has been identified in one of the cancer-associated genes. This finding means that you are at increased risk of developing cancer at some point in your lifetime. However, it doesn't necessarily mean you will get cancer. However, if you do get cancer, there may be specific therapies that are appropriate for you based on knowledge of you having this particular alteration in your genes. These treatments include things such as PARP inhibitors, or use of immune therapy, a new approach to treating cancer. These therapies may be especially effective and appropriate in people who have inherited certain mutations from their parents. The next result is a negative result. A negative result means that we have examined your genes and have not uncovered a variant that appears to be associated with cancer. Note, this finding does not mean that you are at zero risk of developing cancer. What it means is that you are not at increased risk of developing cancer. As far as we know, your cancer risk is the same as other members of the general population. Consequently, you might still develop cancer at some point in your life. Another possible result is discovery of a variant of uncertain significance, or a VUS. Variants of uncertain significance indicate that we have found an alteration in one of the cancer genes that we don't quite understand what it means. As knowledge grows, the significance of these uncertain findings may become more clear in the future. Currently, the significance of the finding is unknown, hence the name variant of uncertain significance. Undergoing genetic testing carries some slight risks and limitations. There is a small risk that the result could be incorrect. There could be a false positive result or a false negative result. There could be a risk of incorrect handling or mix-up of the specimen. There could be a risk of contamination of the specimen with DNA from another person. These risks are very small. There's also a risk that insurance coverage for life insurance may be denied based on the result of genetic testing. There are laws that protect from genetic discrimination, particularly for medical insurance. I would like to assure you that we take every precaution to keep your data safe. We follow all of the regulatory requirements of HIPAA law. The results are only released to your doctor or others that you authorize us to release the information to. The data can be released to other healthcare providers. We know that genetic testing can be confusing. We are here to answer your questions. Your results can be discussed with your doctor or from experts from Protean. We're happy to discuss any questions that you have about this type of testing. It's important that you understand the significance of this type of testing and what the limitations of the testing are. Feel free to ask any of your medical providers about this. One thing to know is that human knowledge of genetics is always increasing. There is a possibility that in the future we will know more about the significance of particular mutations that we uncover in your genome. This information could be of use to you and your family. So there is always an option to reanalyze your data at different time points in the future, and this could uncover information of use for both you and your family to plan screening strategies and potential treatment strategies if you have developed cancer. As I said before, your data is safe with us. Results are only shared with approved healthcare providers, with the patient, and with others that the patient gives permission to share with, such as family members. Occasionally, the data might be used for research purposes, for example, to improve the accuracy or quality of testing. In these instances, de-identified data is used. This is where the information about the origin of the data and information about the individual patient are de-identified and not shared. Please note we provide other sources of information about the genetic testing. There are postcards in the doctor's office that you can look at, and also you can visit Protean's website to learn more about genetic testing. Uncovering the fact that you may be at high risk of development of cancer due to your genetics means that you can make an action plan to reduce that risk. The action plan may include increasing the rate of your screening or at the age at which you begin cancer screening. You may also consider taking preventative measures that you can discuss with your doctor. These preventative measures may be surgery or chemoprevention treatments that can adjust the risk of development of cancer. If you already have a diagnosis of cancer, knowledge about your genetic risk can help your doctor adjust your treatment planning and also follow-up monitoring. It's also important to note that a negative genetic result does not mean that the risk of cancer may be low. Cancer risk is still affected by familial history. It is possible you could still be at risk of developing cancer if you have a strong family history. The next step is to determine if genetic testing is appropriate for you. To determine this, there's a simple questionnaire to determine if you might be from a family that carries a cancer-associated gene. We will ask you to fill out a questionnaire, and then the results will be reviewed with the doctor or other medical professional. Once these results are tabulated, there will be discussion with you to determine if hereditary cancer testing is an appropriate option for you and for your family. It's always important to remember that genetic testing tells you about your risk of developing cancer. It does not tell you if you do have cancer, and it certainly doesn't tell you if you don't have cancer. It is important to know that this is a measurement of risk. It is not a cancer screening test, and it is not a cancer diagnostic test. It's a risk assessment test. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for your interest in considering genetic testing. We're happy to provide this advanced service to you in partnership with Florida Digestive Specialists. Genetic testing can be used to help plan your screening strategies and also plan treatment options if you have developed cancer. We look forward to working with you and answering any of your questions.